Okay, so this weekend, Tom Aspinall looks to defend his heavyweight title against Ciryl Gane. And given where both fighters are heading into this one, it's understandable that Big Tom is a big favourite ahead of Saturday night. However, in this video, I do want to dive a little bit deeper, see how both fighters match up technically, maybe make a slight case for why Ciryl Gane could steal this one, and then I'm going to end the video with a final prediction. Hello guys, and welcome back to Alex on MMA. So the UFC Heavyweight title, the biggest strap, the biggest accolade in the sport, and although this isn't the fight that we necessarily wanted after Jon Jones retired and then relinquished the belt and then unretired, we are landed with Tom Aspinall against Ciryl Gane. So I think before we take a look at how the fighters match up technically, taking a look at where they are both heading into this one might give us some more context to this fight. And if we're going to start by talking about Ciryl Gane, he's not in the best place heading into this one. Although he is coming off that very controversial win against Alexander Volkov, it was exactly that, controversial. Many people, including myself, think that Volkov was robbed in that fight. Let's just call it what it is. However, Gane did end up getting his hand raised, and he's been given this opportunity against Tom Aspinall. However, if you are coupling this controversial win alongside that terrible performance, disastrous performance against Jon Jones, where he just seemed to freeze on the big stage, really show gaping holes within his grappling, then it just doesn't look good for Ciryl Gane, which is why the odds makers have Tom Aspinall such a big favourite, because all the vulnerabilities that Gane showed are just areas that can be exploited by Tom Aspinall. So in a nutshell, Ciryl Gane is far from in the best place heading into another massive title fight. But let's move on to talking about Tom Aspinall. And the question marks with him really come down to inactivity, because he was placed on ice waiting for this Jon Jones super fight, the biggest UFC heavyweight title fight in history. And Jon Jones was clearly just stringing him along, eventually, like I said, letting go of that belt. And that gave us this fight. However, one of the consequences of Jon Jones stalling was the inactivity that we saw from Tom Aspinall. He's been out of the octagon almost 18 months now. And could that show on Saturday night? One saving grace for him is where he trains in the northwest of England. I know that there's loads of heavyweights that they fly in. It's a real hub of heavyweights where he trains. I think it's called Team Cowbon. And it's well documented how hard Tom Aspinall trains. And I have zero doubts in my mind that the guy's a consummate professional. I'm not just showing bias because he's British. I believe that he's a consummate professional. And he probably just has been waiting for that phone call for the best part of 18 months that Jon Jones is ready to fight in a month or so. Get yourself ready, stay in shape. So I believe that Tom Aspinall, although he hasn't had the experience of the bright lights for 18 months, I think he will have been training hard and he'll have been waiting for his opportunity. So when we are assessing where both fighters are heading into Saturday night, Ciryl Gane, I guess he's got everything to win at this point because he's challenging for another title, and given the context of how disastrous his last title challenge was, it can only be up from here. And Tom Aspinall, he's got a bit more pressure on his shoulders. And look, talking about this does raise questions over who's under more pressure, and I'm going to be getting onto that later. But before that, let's take a look at the technical side of things, how these fighters match up. And let's start by talking about striking, because one thing since his disastrous loss to Jon Jones is that Ciryl Gane's entire game has kind of been dismissed, and I think that's evident in the odds that you're seeing heading into Saturday night. However, let's not forget that Ciryl Gane is first and foremost a kickboxer. It was his grappling that was exposed by Jon Jones, and he also got taken down by Alexander Volkov, so there's clearly a glaring hole in his grappling. However, his kickboxing is still very good. When he entered the UFC, when he came onto the scene, people were so high on Ciryl Gane because of his movement. They said that they'd never seen heavyweights move like this before, really light on his feet, in and out, dynamic with his striking, very quick hands, and this can't be discounted in this fight. There's a couple of reasons for this, and the first one might be someone's narrow route to victory in this fight. If you're a betting man, this could be a really good underdog pick. But let's not forget, Tom Aspinall does hold his chin very high. And oftentimes it's because he doesn't respect the power that's coming back his way. In the rematch with Curtis Blaydes, within the first minute, 30 seconds, Curtis Blaydes did catch Aspinall clean on the chin. And look, it didn't do very much, but it was a bit of a warning sign, a bit of a red flag of Tom Aspinall's recklessness in situations. And yes, his fearlessness can be a bit of a positive. And that'll take us nicely to talking about Tom Aspinall's striking, because he's clearly got vicious power in both hands. He puts people down with ease, and he's fearless. That Pavlovich fight was meant to be a big step up for Tom Aspinall at the time. Pavlovich was known as this killer in the heavyweight division, knocking everyone out at that time. And Tom Aspinall dared to be great, go up against him. Not only that, he didn't just go straight to his wrestling, take him down, use his jiu-jitsu. He met fire with fire, ate a great shot from Pavlovich, and then sat him down, knocked him out, and proved to the world that he can battle it out with the biggest punches in the sport. So could this fearlessness, this potential recklessness of Tom Aspinall to come wading in with his chin high, could it be his undoing in this fight? I know that so many people are counting Ciryl Gane out of this fight, but he's still very skilled on the feet. He's put beatings on people before on the feet. But as long as he can keep it standing, and it's a massive if, and let's face it, it's a matter of time before this fight does go to the ground if Tom Aspinall's put in any trouble on the feet. But if Ciryl Gane can keep it on the feet for any extended periods of time, I do fancy him having some success landing on Tom Aspinall. With that being said, talking about the ground game and the grappling, I'm going to come back to the striking because there's a couple more details I want to talk about. But I just mentioned as long as Ciryl Gane can keep it on the feet, and the big if there. Tom Aspinall is a jiu-jitsu guy first. His father's a jiu-jitsu coach. Tom Aspinall was teaching classes in his early teens. He's a very, very skilled grappler, and we cannot underestimate the importance of that in this fight. Using the John Jones blueprint, as Tom Aspinall could well do on Saturday night, he knows that the easiest path to victory for him against Ciryl Gane is taking him down and either controlling him and using ground and pound, or submitting him. Ciryl Gane entered MMA at a very late age, a much later age than Tom Aspinall did when he began grappling, and the significance of this cannot be overstated. If this turns into a grappling match of any sort, there's only going to be one winner. Tom Aspinall has much better wrestling, better takedown defense as well. We've seen fights previously on his early UFC career where fighters attempted to take Tom Aspinall down, and he showed really good heavy hips, strong legs, a refusal to being taken down. And if it turns into a submission match, Ciryl Gane won't threaten any kind of submission on Tom Aspinall that he needs to be worried about. But if Tom Aspinall decides to go all out, trying to get a submission on Ciryl Gane when they're on the ground, I'm pretty certain that he would be able to do that. So really, this fight depends entirely on this. Can Ciryl Gane keep this fight on the feet? Will Tom Aspinall allow him to keep this fight on the feet? And can Ciryl Gane get the better of Tom Aspinall if they are on the feet? That's the really interesting part. And because both fighters are light on their feet, they like to move in and out, who's going to get the timing first? Because that's extremely important. And who's going to land the more significant shots? So to answer that second question first, who's going to land the more significant shots? Clearly, this all comes down to power. And based on what I've seen so far from both of these guys, you have to lean towards Tom Aspinall. He does really hit to hurt. Even his low kicks, he really stings them in. Oftentimes, you'll see Ciryl Gane tapping that lead leg with his nice light style, whereas Tom Aspinall, he lunges into it. He sets them up and really digs that leg in. So I think from a power perspective, you have to lean towards Tom Aspinall. With the fists, we've seen Tom Aspinall put fighters down with both hands. He puts his combinations together really well. He's got fast hands. But let's not forget, so does Ciryl Gane. When he's on form, he puts his hands together really nicely. The finishing sequence that saw off Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa in Paris was a beautiful combination with a few strikes to the back of the head, but it was nice, a nice combination with the hands from Ciryl Gane. And when he's mixing it up, when he's confident, he can do that. If we're looking at the striking defense of both guys, I think both guys' striking defense is fairly questionable out in the open. We've already discussed Tom Aspinall's willingness to keep his chin high in the air. He lunges in to get his combinations out of there. But at the same time, Ciryl Gane can get hurt as well. He can get hit. He can get hurt. We saw in the fight against Tai Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa, who's not exactly the quickest heavyweight, he was able to drop Ciryl Gane. So it's not looking great for Ciryl Gane based on this breakdown, because most of the areas in which Ciryl Gane would love to keep the fight, which is in the stand-up realm, the striking game, the fight still leans towards Tom Aspinall, given his attributes. Tom Aspinall is potentially a once-in-a-generation type of fighter. Extremely skillful, extremely capable everywhere, super well-rounded. So when it comes down to the physical attributes and assessing those of each fighter, I can understand why Tom Aspinall is such a big favourite. And I think the only other area that we can explore heading into this fight that could give Ciryl Gane some chance is the intangibles, the mindset, the pressure that each fighter will be feeling. And if we're going to start with Ciryl Gane, I really think for his sake, he needs to see this fight as nothing to lose. Don't put pressure on yourself like he did against Jon Jones. That massive fight where not only did the lack of grappling get exposed, but he just kind of buckled. He really fell short in that fight. Didn't do anything to tell Jon Jones, look, I'm the real heavyweight in this fight. And you could easily say that Ciryl Gane lost that fight due to a lack of grappling in his game. And I agree that to an extent, that's certainly a factor. But I also think a massive factor was the pressure that Ciryl Gane puts himself under for that title shot against the biggest name in the sport's history in Jon Jones. I think that Ciryl Gane just failed to rise to the occasion. He put himself under too much pressure and just buckled. So for his sake, and it's so much easier said than done, but he needs to try to take the pressure off of himself in this fight. All the hype, all the pressure should be on Tom Aspinall in this one. Ciryl Gane should try and fly under the radar, accept that he's a big underdog for a reason heading into this one, and just give it all in the octagon. Do everything he can to keep this fight standing for as long as possible. But in terms of a mindset perspective, take the pressure off yourself. You've got nothing to lose in this fight. People aren't expecting you to win. They're saying you came off a dodgy victory last time anyway. Just go out there, do your best. If you get your hand raised, incredible. If you lose, so be it. He really needs to have that attitude heading into this one. Now let's take a look at Tom Aspinall. This guy's under a hell of a lot of pressure, not just by the bookmakers, not just by the people saying that he should walk this fight. There's been so much talk for a year and a half about how Jon Jones has been ducking him, how scared Jon Jones is of fighting Tom Aspinall. He's built up this almost mythic reputation as the one fighter Jon Jones was afraid of. And now he's back in the octagon. Not just back in the octagon, but back as the unified defending UFC Heavyweight champion. And he really needs to deliver. If he loses to Ciryl Gane, then you know Jon Jones will be there, ready on Twitter, ready to let the messages go, and he'll be trying to push for that Ciryl Gane rematch in the White House. Tom Aspinall knows that there is so much riding on this fight. 2026 could be an absolutely huge year for him. Whether it's against Jon Jones or Alex Pereira at the White House, he knows there's a hell of a lot riding on this, and the pressure is massive. However, the one thing that works in Tom Aspinall's favour is that he has demonstrated an ability to deal with pressure in the past, not only being on a fantastic win streak, minus the Curtis Blades injury in the UFC, he's also performed spectacularly in front of his home crowd in the UK, and you know what the UK fans are like, they love getting behind their own, but there's also so much pressure because of the noise, because of the hype behind their own fighters, and he's delivered on that occasion as well. So I do think that Tom Aspinall will be able to deal with this, but there's no question in my mind. The pressure is on Tom Aspinall. It should be on Tom Aspinall, and Ciryl Gane should make sure that it's all on Tom Aspinall as well. That's as far as it goes in terms of the mindset, the intangibles for this fight. Physically, Tom Aspinall just looks like a superior mixed martial artist, and that leads me perfectly to my fight prediction. And I've been thinking long and hard about this one. And I did want to make a slight case for Ciryl Gane. As long as he can keep it standing, I'm expecting it to be fairly competitive. But I just don't think Tom Aspinall's going to go down that route in this fight. I think he's going to almost try and copy the Jon Jones blueprint, or even go one better and getting him out of there in under a minute. I think that Tom Aspinall, I'm still not sure whether it's going to be submission or KO. I think he gets Ciryl Gane out of there, and he gets him out of there early. I've got a first round stoppage. I really want to say submission. I really, really want to say submission, but you're being too greedy if you're expecting that much from me, because I'm on a good run with my predictions so far, minus the Mauricio Hufi one. Forget that one. That's not important. But Tom Aspinall stopping Ciryl Gane in the first round this Saturday. Bookmark this. Please do like this video if you have done. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already. Comment below your prediction, and I'll see you on Sunday.